Greetings, this is I, Tantus Narrahan Dracovin, your Lord and Emperor here at the Dracovin Empire, and welcome once more. We're diving back into the world of Pathfinder, the tabletop role-playing game, and of course, its world setting, Golarion. I hope you're all having a wonderful day out there, whether you're joining me, of course, live on Twitch over there, or later on in YouTube. YouTube people, just remember to support the algorithms and stuff, with liking, subscribing, and email, and all that stuff. My question to all of you out there today joining me, of course, is, have you been to Vidrian? Or the country it was formerly known as, perhaps in one of your Pathfinder adventures, Sargava? Interesting question here. Because that's what we're diving into today. We're going to be learning all about the country of Vidrian. I talked about a nation which has dealt with them for a long time in the Shackles, or a region I should really say, and this is an opportunity to talk about the nation which has formed fairly recently out of this region. They're in fact only 7 years old. They were formed in 4717 and it's 4724 on the Golarion calendar. So yeah, 7 years old as a nation. But certainly speaking, it has a longer history as another name for this, and we're going to dive into it. And of course, the best place to start out with anything is telling you basically my sources, because they can be your sources too to do additional information and resources, aka the books you can check out. And I haven't said it in a while, but I do use the Pathfinder, the wiki sites online and archives of Nethys and D20 PSRD also do provide some information. Archives more than PSFRD. PSRD is more mechanical, and Pathfinder wiki is a pretty good place to get a lot of this information. Keep all that in mind. Inner Sea World Guide is a good place to start if you're looking at the first edition, where it's more Sargava. If you're looking more to when it's become Vidrian, the Lost Omens World Guide, and of course the Mwangi Expanse deals with it because it is on the borders. It is part of that kind of region there of Garund. That is the flag of Vidrian. So it is a colonial nation on southwestern Mwangi Expanse. So it is technically part of the Mwangi Expanse. It was a Cheliaxian colony, and its name was Sargava. Its native peoples basically earned freedom for themselves during this time period, and the scars of colonialism and conquest by the Cheliaxians runs deep in the nation. Not to say that there wasn't a definite level of people that were settlers that did also believe in a freedom and equality with the people that were native to this region, but so we talk history. We do have to look at the Sargavan history and its existence before we turn to the more recent history. In the early history, this region was just part of the Mwangi Expanse, and it was settled by Cheliaxians, I should say, or conquered more often, in 4138. Basically, Cheliaxian colonists conquered the native population in this region. Explorers that had previously scouted the Golgon ruins in the Shackles in 4111, they were disturbed by various images there and basically traveled further south from the Shackles to here. Now, again, colonialism, traditionally in our world, very bad, so you can kind of think about it's not great here either. But everything was kind of at a status quo for a good, about 500 years of, colonizers conquered an area and probably not treating it very well when Aridin died. Aridin died and it changed things for Cheliax. That was the patron deity of Cheliax. And then we get into the Civil War, and of course House Thrun takes over. Asmodeus becomes the new thing. Devils becomes the big thing. And during this time, during the Civil War, Sargava, as it's known at the time, also unsuccessfully attempted to expand its holding eastwards by conquering the city-state of Mazala. The invasion force was destroyed by a magical fire by the child god Walkena in 4610. After this, a Chelist fleet sent by House Thrun for revenge on Sargava, who had supported another group, was sunk in Desperation Bay by the Shackles pirates in 4643, with a second fleet failing in 4660. So Sargava basically during this time became independent from Cheliax. It was effectively backing a different house than House Thrune led them to be a sovereign nation on their own, because the people they backed lost. So they became their own nation, fleets were sent after them, didn't work, Shackles pirates helped them. Yeah. Now we have to turn towards more modern history, because we're in the Age of Lost Omens, which is a pretty new age, and I haven't talked about that much, but that kind of started fairly recently, basically around the 46 mark, and we're at the 27 mark, so it's only been like about 100 and so years. Okay, it's when Eridan died. Sargava had a lot of hardships. It was isolated from Cheliax, the racketeering from the free captives, the shackles. It was all creating a lot of stress. And the stress finally came to a head in 4715, where the native Mwangi folk basically decided that they needed change and revolted against their colonial overlords. There were a number of colonists that, of course, joined them because they were no longer loyal to Cheliax, and they were also basically disdained by how their fellow colonists were running Sargava to the ground and mistreating these people. So there were a good number of colonial descendants that actually joined with them. The rebels took over the capital of Elidur and renamed it Athasis. They overthrew the Chelish governor, Baron Ultinius, and renamed their new country Vidrian, returning it to local rule in 4717. Again, not to say there aren't some people of Cheliax descent that are there still living now. There are plenty of people that basically joined with the people there to kind of make a new country. Anyway, one of the first acts was to stop paying money to the free captives. Sargava had basically been paying them money for a quite long period of times. A protection racket with the pirates. Of course, that had helped protect them from several Cheliax invasions. The free captains really didn't want to lose a source of easy income, so they invaded Vidrian. Vidrian signed a quick alliance with another city-state, Sengahor, and with that power, they managed to drive away the free captains and basically established itself as a new nation in a effective war that lasted about a year. So a rough start, but they've managed to establish themselves as a nation as we would think it. They've managed to kind of carve that out from what they were. Now let's talk about the region. What's there? Why is it so important? Why is this area here? And this is a picture of statues being pulled down during the revolution. So there are the jungles of the Mwangi Expanse. That's there. But much of Vidrian is actually the lush but sparsely settled grasslands of the Maniri Plains. The Laughing Jungle dominates much of the southern border, while the northern border stretches through parts of the jungle known as the Kava Lands. The Lower Kori River and the Lake of Vanished Armies mark the southern border. The River of Lost Tears flows along much of the eastern border, and a section of the Bandu Hills runs along the north part of the country's center. As for settlements, there's the small hamlet of Kashil in the southern wetlands, with a community of Songo halflings there. There's Crown's End, a group that basically further along the butts of Declaration Bay, their own befriended the local Jo tribe. Fort Bandu, fortification eastern part of it near the Bandu Hills, near the border with the Mwangi Expanse proper. The Maniri Valley Cattle Ranch, which used to be named Freehold, which was kind of a holiday spot in a small town. But yes, it's basically ranch hands and a ranch now. Port Freedom, which is its second port behind the capital, the second largest port behind the capital. And it accompanies deep ships here. Prion's Hearth. It's the most southerly point of historical Cheliaxian colony. So it's the most southern point there. Well, now it's Prion's Hearth, but it's also been known as Prion's Grave, Prion's Folly. Yeah. Sorry. Stark Point, a trading post on the River of Lost Tears, the stream end of it, just south of Fort Bandu. And, of course, a large city called Myongo, which was known as Kalabutu during colonial times, and was the largest settlement in Vidrian. And it was a crumbling city built by Mwangi tribesmen before that era. So another large city is there. And of course then the capital, Anthusis, formerly known as Elidor. It was the capital of Sargava. The revolt here has kind of overthrown it and made it its own stuff. Just as a brief thing of all the places and cities you can visit in Vidrian. Let's talk about who's in charge of the place, the government of this country, as we should. And this is basically the admiral of Vidrian's navy, Shimali Manax, so part of the government, definitely. There's basically a council that rules over Vidrian that consists of representatives of the various groups that are within the nation. They are all aware their new nation could be easily reconquered, and they need to take steps to rebuild their economy and prevent former conquests. The economy which was tanking in the Sargava name. The different groups do disagree on the small details, which can lead to some gridlock, and their alliance with Sengor, the other city-state, remains untested. Other allies, like the Anadi, are unwilling to commit militarily, and there are some Vidric, that's the name of the adjective for the country, ambassadors that are welcomed in Absalom, Andoran, Osirian, and Ravenel. The other city-states in the Mwangi region have actually been reluctant to respond to diplomatic overturns. Many don't want to give up their independence. Mazali still views them as an enemy. Hey, they did try to invade them only a couple hundred years ago. And of course, Cheliax would love to retake their former colony. So they have some enemies, a couple of friends, some people that are willing to listen to them, and some people that are trying to make friends with. The council itself is made up of various different organizations. Combined mercantile interest is ironically, effectively a council in and of itself, comprised of many different trade guilds that are at odds with each other. The field unions represent the agricultural affairs. The independent banks of Vidrian recall how debt was used to ensnare the local Mwangi people and instead give work that only takes a small portion of earnings to those without the means to repay them. The represented theologies lobby for the various churches of the nation. The Vein serves as the Vidrian's intelligence network. In addition, there's a couple small organizations such as the Briars, which represent their criminals, and the Coalition of Medicines and the United Laborers. So you see there's all these kind of organizations that have representatives on the council and all view things incredibly different. So as a people, though, the Vidrians have their livelihoods depend on whether or not they reside in an urban or remote area. Residents of the port cities focus on commerce, so the nation can repay the debts that were incurred during the revolution. In addition to the bend of colonial and Mwangi economic practices, Vidrian oversees adventurers who explore the expanse in search of lost treasures. While many residents perceive this as distasteful, it is seen as a necessary sort of income. So, certainly speaking, probably the people of Mwangi descent are probably going to be like, that really sucks. But we need the money as a nation. We really need that. I really hate this. Vidric leaders carefully choose who guides to ensure that items of cultural significance are returned to the rightful hands. So basically, the guides which lead these adventures are basically like, hey, anything that's treasure you can have, but anything that's cultural we can get some returning for you, maybe pay you for a little bit. So the Pathfinder Society has regained influence due to their oversight of their own and willingness to apprehend looters and who thoughtlessly procure artifacts. So the Pathfinder Society is actually making headway within them here by, policing that kind of stuff too. Looters bad, cultural stuff good. We can still gather and get money, but, be reasonable about it. There are a number of groups that the tribes that Vidrian is all allied with. The IJ, Akuje, Songo, and other protectors within the Expanse also serve as the last line of defense against looters, who Vidrian is allied with. Magical salvage divers from Vidrian and the Kava lands are also engaged in a thriving business, extracting artifacts and treasures from sunken fleets or the swampy aftermath of the Sodden lands to the north. So many residents of Vidrian call for a larger naval presence, as the free captains still disrupt trade routes in retaliation for not paying their protection fees. The jungle plantations of Sargava are now in control of their workers, now that it is Vidrian. To the farmers of these remote rural areas, foreign powers and free captains are distant threats. With aid of the government in the capital of Athesis, their grains and luxury foods have become one of Vidrian's greatest strengths, basically. So big turnaround there for certain things. There's a nice picture of the region. So some criminals have been reincorporated into more legitimate businesses. Others do still strive in Vidrian. In order to ensure economic stability, the government has agreed to sanction crime as long as it does not threaten Vidrian's security. So in exchange, the Thieves Guild disallowed stealing essential goods such as food and medicine, along those of certain companies. Smugglers and fencers prefer to turn in any cultural artifacts they find to the government so they can receive a fee. Even guides that have been approved by the government ask if their clients have visited the local Pathfinder lodge before going on their hyperbolic tirades. Like any other enterprises, criminal proceeds are taxed to ensure Vidrian's financial stability. More than one effort to destabilize the region has been disrupted by the willingness of Vidrian's criminals to turn in potential saboteurs. So basically, it also has kept, if someone wants to disrupt the place, stop that a little bit too. Interestingly enough. So in addition to the Mwangi peoples that are native to this region, who make a majority of the population, Vidrian is also home to a sizable group of former colonists, who earn their citizenship and protection by law by aiding in the overthrow of the former nation of Sargava in the country's battle against the free captains. They do work hard to take advantage of the resource that originally drew Cheliax's attention to stabilize Vidrian's economy, and some enact trade along the western coast of Garund with the seized ships from the free captains. However, the stark change between Sargavin and Vidrian culture has become a new source of conflict between the Mwangi natives and the Cheliax colonists. Vidrian's people agree that the Mwangi must be free, but each has their own idea of freedom. Some focus on removing diabolism from the nation, others wish to return to a time before Cheliax colonized the region. There's a debate on whether Vidrian should keep to themselves even too. So there's a lot of debate against the people that are there. Effectively, again, it's different, reminiscent to some places in our world too, places like, South Africa that had a lot of issues like this. We've had regions of colonialism that have had a lot of issues, especially with some people remaining behind and living in that region afterwards, after the colonial ends, and it's adapting to a new way of life. And that's, unfortunately, a lot of what Vidrian's trying to do. There's certainly different ends in all directions of what people want. Here's a lesser deity, the goddess Lubaiko, who has recently been gaining a lot of traction in this region. So religion in Vidrian is individualized affair. In the larger cities, you can find faiths throughout the inner sea regions, while remote areas share faiths with their neighbors. The most prominent faiths are variations in the worship of Abadar, Gozareth, Iomedae, Sarenrae, Shelin, that they have been synchronized with the gods of the Mwangi Expanse and modified to suit local affairs. An example, a worshipper of Abadar in Vidrian prefers to take the side of his dedication to neutrality is scorn. Worshippers of Abadar in Vidrian prefer to take sides as his dedication to neutrality is scorn, basically. So, take some sides there. Okay, my language didn't say it right there. Sarenrae became popular due to her aid her church provided during the Revolution. She's depicted as a motherly figure with streaks of gray blonde hair, similar to the matriarchs revered by other Mwangi. These are not the only deities worshipped here. Diabolism and the worship of Asmodee is still practiced behind closed doors by deceitful colonists, while priests of many different gods of the Expanse have flocked to Vidrian in pursuit of opportunities. Some gods have been pursued to the mainstream, such as our good friend here, Lubaiko, by the Revolution. Lubaiko is now a mainstream deity in Vidrian because of the Revolution. Congratulations. The goddess of wildfires, bad luck, inspiration, and turmoil is worshipped here. The chaotic, the mischievous deity. Fits with Revolution just a little bit. So certainly there are local festivals and holidays. Vidrian does celebrate some holidays of its own. On the 19th of Sarenth, they celebrate the Day of Remembrance of Mwangi Sovereignty, marking the day in 4717 when the last of the Sargavan colonial government was removed from Vidrian. Founders' Day on 7 Callisto recognized when the Mwangi tribes first came together to form Athusis, although the year in which this occurred is a source of debate. Tides Changing is celebrated near the end of Gozra and coincides with the departure of many merchant vessels for the year. It's a rowdy festival that was initially intended to distract pirates, but now marks an alliance between legitimate and criminal enterprises in Vidrian. An interesting celebration there that, my criminal buddy, my legitimate buddy, let's go get drinking. But, that's the nation of Vidrian, which is a very interesting nation. Certainly, it has a history of being a region on its own, conquered, being this nation of Sargava that was a colony for a long time before it got its freedom, and now it's becoming something new, something that's still difficult. The sheer fact that you now have, yes, the Mwangi people of this nation are free, but they've been changed and influenced by colonization. Certainly, yes, places like the city of Athus may have been there, or may have had some connection to what was going on there before it was conquered. But now, they have been influenced by the colonization, but are free to build something on their own. Something that's between what they originally were as the various Mwangi tribes and peoples, and this change that's been brought about by the hundreds of years of colonization. And certainly, there still are plenty of people living there that are of colonial descent. Many joined with them in making a new nation. And, yeah, plenty will respect that, but there's probably still lots of anger about how things were mistreated over all those centuries. And so it's this mixed bag of people. And this mixed bag of people are finding a new way of doing things, rebuilding a nation. Sargava was a failing nation, a failing people, a people oppressed. And I'm pretty sure plenty of the colonial people were not treated well too. Cheliax doesn't always know how to treat their citizens, but I doubt they were treated probably better than the Mwangi people, but not great either still. Another reason many of them probably joined with it, the oppressions, the destruction of their nation, a lot of things that these people that also had been living here for hundreds of years. It's a nation of turmoil trying to forge something out of the chaos. Maybe that's why the deity of wildfires is so popular there. a wildfire swept through Sargava, and out of Vidrian was born. This fire has burned, scorched the land, and new growths are coming in. And the forms those new growths are taking will require some form of watching, some form of gardening, maybe, or pruning. Hard to say exactly your plant-based term that I should really use here that's appropriate. I can't think of the right one. But nonetheless, something new is being birthed. Something new out of these ashes, out of all these people, and they're finding that voice. And where it will go is hard to say. I mean, they've had 7 years of really being a nation. Not a long time. Being a place that's different than what it was before. A place of freedom, a place of so many things. So, we're just going to have to wait and see what Vidrian holds in the future, what changes it might occur as the story goes on. But for now, it's an interesting and fun place to learn about a terrible history, which is building to something new and better. I think that's why it's fun. We are seeing the birth of something new out of something terrible. That's what we're seeing. Something new, better, great. And a people that have put up with a lot and maybe not lost their spirit. Maybe have found new voices, new strength that they didn't lose. An impressive people because of it. The people. Anyway, we'll leave it there. I hope everybody enjoyed today. Remember to do all the various things. If you want to see stuff live or later on YouTube, my schedule for tabletop stuff is Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, the back of day. It's usually early afternoon to mid-afternoon. Thursdays is my Pathfinder day. I've got the Crimson Queen, my live play Pathfinder First Edition, on Wednesdays at 9 p.m. EST. Discussing tabletop on Saturdays at 6 p.m. Talk about news of the week and more. Deeper discussions and tabletop topics. Remember to check out my social medias, Discord, Twitter, lock below. Do all the things to do all the support in all the places. All that kind of stuff, It helps keep things alive here, keep going. You do more of all this kind of stuff, all those things. Get, maybe one of these days I'll finally get that new overlay that I've been trying to either work on or purchase. I really do need a new one. But regardless, though, I hope you enjoyed. I really do. I hope you enjoyed learning and, made you interested in nations like this in Golarion. This is the kind of lore I love. But until the next time we talk about this, any other Pathfinder topic, any other tabletop topic, I bid all of you out there a deep and wonderful farewell.